Welcome to VeloNut. I'm Jeff Whitfield, and if you consider yourself an average Joe rider, you're not into racing, you're just looking for the next adventure on your bike, then you are in the right place. As I always say, you might not be able to ride like a pro, but at least you can ride like a geek. Alright, so a few updates, and it's going to be a few big ones. First, I just want to talk a little bit about a few additions that I made to the Nicasio that I didn't mention before. Here, let me just kind of turn this around and show you right quick, okay? One sec. Okay, so one of the things I didn't mention before is the grip tape that I used. This is actually I replaced the original tape that I had on here that was honestly was just a bit tacky and just kind of nasty, really stuff. I think it was, what is it? The oh crap, what did I use before? It's a good question. Dang it. Super Cas. Okay, so I used the Super Cas and I just didn't like it too much. I think, the Super Cas is like, really highly rated, but to me it just ends up with a sticky mess and it was just nuts. You're just not very good for rewrapping those folks. But this stuff, this is the ESI Grips bar wrap. It's 100% silicone, and so just like the wolf tooth supple bar wrap that I use, this stuff is just fantastic. There's something to be said about silicone wrap. It wraps really nicely. You can get it really nice and tight and get it, really nice around the hoods area, and just feels great and just works wonderfully well. It's actually not too expensive. I think you can get it for about 30 bucks, roughly $35. I bought it on Amazon, I think pretty cheap. So, it's really good stuff. It has a really nice cushy feel, so I'm really happy with it. The other thing too I did was I added back on my Topeak rack back onto the bike. I was concerned that actually I wouldn't be able to do that, simply because, I was kind of concerned that the clearance down below wouldn't allow me to put it on a trainer, and actually it does, so no big deal. And the only reason I wanted to do that was simply because the Topeak top rack, I actually do have a Topeak bag that works with Topeak's little channel thing, so you can actually lock the bag into place. So that's really cool. And yeah, so those are the two main things that I really kind of added on to this bike that really kind of rounded out. So it is now ready to rumble. All right, so we need to talk about my other bike. So let's talk about that. All right, well, enough of the old Nicasio. That's kind of like old hat, as it were. Let's talk about the Surly now, and the things I've done to that. So that bike is fully built and ready to go. So I guess I have to do the big reveal now, don't I? So without further ado, folks, I introduce to you a bike that I like to call Eruption. So this is the Surly Midnight Special, what I call Eruption, for obvious reasons. Is that just like I showed you before, the frame was treated to basically kind of give it the same kind of quality as the the famous guitar that Eddie Van Halen rode. I'm not a huge Eddie Van Halen fan, but I thought, hey, why not? Let's be weird. So anyways, so the bike really, for the most part, contains parts that were on my original Nicasio. So that, Nicasio was my original gravel bike before, and now this one is. So so a couple things that I did was, a lot of the parts are more or less the same. The same Richie Beacon handlebar is the same, with the same wolf tooth supple bar tape. Supple, it's that word supple, it always pops up. And of course the red shift shock stop stem and the seat post. So both of those things kind of add a lot of extra stuff. And I tell you what, riding on this, and then all of a sudden riding on the Nicasio that doesn't have the red shift seat post on it and the stem, boy, oh boy, oh boy, I can tell you can tell a difference when it's not there. Same Brooks B17 Imperial saddle. and of course the GRX group set. Of course, because I'm going mechanical with this, I do use the Shimano 105 shifters, which are compatible with the GRX group set. So it's a 2x group set, the RX 810 crankset, and you know, front derailleurs and rear derailleurs. All right, and of course a 11x40 cassette on there. So, but now some of the things that are different, a couple things that are different. I have these Fsa wheel sets. This is the 650B wheel set, and one of the things that I put on there was these. Let me see if you can come around here and see them. Was the Rene Hurst Juniper Ridge tires. There's a 650B by 48s, and that's kind of about the fattest I want. And of course, you know, Rene Hurst says that this particular pattern works really well, even on pavement. And I gotta tell you, actually, that's true. And actually has quite a nice bit of grip. The other thing too I had to do was they didn't have the TRP spires at the time, so I got these High Roads, which is kind of a hybrid. Hybrid mechanical plus hydraulic, and I wasn't sure about how I'd feel about it. But now that I have them, and I have them put them on, I got to say they're really good. Now they do have a little bit of a long draw, which fortunately the 105s, like when you pull it all the way, you can see actually just pulls right there near the end, and which is fine. Actually, I find that that's actually just nice and has a nice little grip to it. And there are ways to kind of get around it, but I tell you, these have a really nice bit of modulation to them. Better than the spires, ironically enough, and do have a nice bit of bite to them. Along with that, I added on a Tatico, Silca Tatico mini pump, and of course the most recent addition that I added on was basically this little sucker. This is an Axiom rack, and so I decided to go with a rack on this one too. And one of the things I'm gonna add on later is there's a adapter you can get that what's their name? Topeak makes an adapter which allows you to adapt any rack to work with their system, the MTX system, to allow you to do the quick slide, quick track. All right, so that's really the bulk of the bike. One of the other things too I have is I do have my old Rene Hurst tires that I have, that my 38 millimeters are just kind of like my 700C 38 millimeter tires. It uses the same FSA rims, and but it's a 700C rim. And then of course I put the Rene Hurst, it's more of a semi-slick tire. And those tires in particular are going to be used primarily for my longer treks. Now these tires are going to be my dedicated gravel tires, since they're going to have a nice bit of grip to them. The other thing too that's interesting about this bike is that the geometry is really not that much different than a Nicasio. The only thing that's really different is that the top tube is not as, it doesn't have as aggressive slant to it as the Nicasio does. And that does kind of give the frame a little bit of a different feel and compliance to it. Plus, because this frame is designed to be more compliant with like wider tires, the rear chainstays also have a difference to them. So the stays have a different shape to them and different compliance as a result of that. Plus the fork is slightly different too. But the big thing also is that it's these axles. One of the things that Surly does is that they have, while you can put quick release on this frame, their Surly axles allow you to basically get something that's very similar to a through axle. So this is actually, these wheels, when I had them, actually were allowed me to adapt them to the 12 millimeter through axle standard. So I was actually able to go and use Surly's axles and then basically get the equivalent of what's basically a through axle compatible frame, which is really nice. And I tell you, I think between the axles and with the way that the frame is set up, while the ride itself doesn't seem all that much different than, say, the Nicasio, all those little things, all those little changes to the frame and to the axles and so forth, I think definitely give it a different feel. So one of the things I'm going to show you hopefully later down the line is a in-ride experience with this particular bike. And there you go, folks. That was my little tour, as it were, of the new Surly Midnight Special Eruption. the Eruption, especially Eruption edition. Not really, yeah, I got a few things left that I'm gonna kind of do to the bike. Not a whole lot, but just a few little touch-ups, some few little things I'm gonna try to do to help, you know, protect the frame. There's some little frame protector stickers you can put down below, and I find that the top tube has to use some protection as well because the seat tube is so low, there's no way to really like clamp onto it when you put it up on a stand. So you have to use the top tube. You really don't have a choice, which I have found kind of tends to kind of muck up my my reflective tape a little bit. So I'm going to protect it up a little bit as well. But other than that, you know, so far I've given it a few rides, and I tell you, it's a wonderful bike. So one of the things I'm going to do, and hopefully in my next journal session, if it doesn't warm up a bit, I tell you, we're right now in the middle of February here in Texas, and for some reason or another, it decided to get really cold. So like my hand right now that's holding on to my camera is just freezing, really. It's in the 30s. It's damp, and it's just miserable, which I know all you New Jersey people going, hey man, that's like an average Friday for us. What are you complaining about? You don't know the meaning of cold. Yeah, I don't. That's why I live in Texas and don't live in New Jersey, okay? But and of course the Canadians going, you know, yeah, like, and actually I think Canadians would actually be telling New Jersey folks, like, you don't know cold, okay? Anyways, thanks for viewing, and hey, I'm going to share some more of my experiences with this new bike, and hopefully we can get this sucker out on the gravel trails. Hopefully we can do a little ride out on the tree levee here before too long, and then I'll show you kind of like what this bike is really capable of doing. All right, so until then, stay safe and keep pedaling on.